The well of Pajuris village groaned with emptiness, its stone walls cracked and thirsting. 63 days without rain had transformed the once verdant coastal lands into a tapestry of suffering. Fields that should have burst with summer wheat now stretched like parchment, yellow and brittle beneath an unforgiving sun. Eglė wiped sweat from her brow as she lowered the empty bucket into the well once more. At 19, her hands had already grown calloused from years of labour, shoulders strong from carrying both water and responsibility. The familiar scrape of rope against stone ended with the hollow thud of wood hitting dry earth. Nothing again? Her brother Oswaldus called from the garden where withered beanstalks clung to life. Nothing, Eglė confirmed, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. Their mother had been gone 3 days now, joining other village elders on a desperate journey to the mainland town to beg for aid. Father had taken the fishing boat farther than ever before, searching for waters that might still yield enough to feed them all. Inside their small wooden house, little Lipa lay on her bed, lips cracked and face flushed with fever, only 7 summers old, and already the drought had taken its heaviest toll on her small body. "Water, please," Lipa whispered when Eglė pressed a damp cloth, their last precious drops, to her forehead. As twilight painted the sky in hues of amber and violet, Eglė sat beside her sister, singing softly the lullabies their grandmother had taught her. Songs of sea maidens and water spirits, of the ancient days when humans knew how to speak to the waves. Tales dismissed as childish fancy, until now when Eglė found herself desperate enough to believe, when Lipa's breathing grew shallow and her small hands burned like embers against Eagle's palm, something ancient stirred in her heart. A memory, a story, a possibility. "Hold on, little flower," Eglė whispered. "I know what I must do." The midnight moon cast silver ripples across the Baltic Sea as Eglė stood at the water's edge. Behind her, the sleeping village of Pajuris seemed to hold its collective breath. The forbidden sea cave yawned before her, a dark mouth in the cliff face that all villagers were warned from childhood never to enter. "It is the dwelling place of ancient powers," her grandmother had told her, eyes gleaming with secret knowledge. "The Serpent Queen Žilvinas dwells beyond, keeper of all waters, guardian of the deep currents that flow beneath our world." As a child, Eglė had loved these stories. As a woman, she had set them aside for practical matters, nets and bread and caring for siblings. But now, with Lipa's life fading like morning mist, practicality had failed her. The cold water lapped at her ankles as Eglė waded in, the small woven pouch around her neck containing 3 treasures, an amber bead from her mother's wedding necklace, 3 strands of Lipa's golden hair, and a small loaf made from their last handful of flour. Offerings, as the old tales instructed. "Queen of waters, mistress of scales, I seek audience." Eglė called into the darkness, her voice stronger than she felt. The words came from somewhere deep in her memory, phrases her grandmother had murmured during storms. The sea remained silent, but something shifted in its rhythm. The waves no longer pushed against her body but seemed to pull her forward, toward the cave mouth that loomed like a promise. Or a threat. Eglė took a deep breath, remembering Lipa's parched lips, the empty wells, the despair in her father's eyes when he returned with empty nets. What choice did she have? With determination hardening her resolve, she dove beneath the surface, swimming into the forbidden darkness. The sea cave should have been pitch black, yet somehow Eglė could see. The water itself seemed to glow with subtle luminescence, not enough to illuminate, but enough to guide. She swam deeper, her lungs burning with each powerful stroke, until logic told her she should have run out of breath long ago. Yet she did not drown. The water felt different here, thicker, almost like swimming through liquid starlight. It supported her, carried her forward as if understanding her purpose. The tunnel narrowed, then widened into a vast underwater chamber. Here, bioluminescent creatures pulsed with ethereal light. Jellyfish with tentacles like flowing ribbons of moonlight, small fish with scales that shimmered like polished silver, corals that glowed with colours Eglė had no names for. "Beautiful," she whispered, surprised to find she could speak underwater, her words forming bubbles that didn't rise, but instead floated around her like tiny lanterns. Ahead a structure rose from the seabed. Not built but grown, it seemed. Crystal arches twisted together like living things, forming an intricate gateway taller than the village church. Runes in a language Eglė didn't recognize, yet somehow understood, carved themselves continuously along its surface. Enter with truth or not at all. Beyond the crystal gates lay a realm that defied everything Eglė had believed possible. Spires of coral and pearls stretched upward, forming a palace that seemed both ancient and alive. Gardens of anemones swayed in currents that followed no natural pattern. Fish with human eyes watched her passage silently. As Eglė approached the gates, her heart thundering against her ribs, she removed the woven pouch from around her neck. The amber caught the strange light, glowing from within like a captured sun. The strands of Lipa's hair twisted together, forming a small braid of their own accord. The bread dissolved into the water, becoming a cloud of golden particles that swirled around her like eager messengers. The gates parted soundlessly, opening a path to the heart of this impossible kingdom. "I come seeking help," Eglė announced to the watching eyes, the listening waters. "I come for my sister, my village, my people who thirst." From the shadows beyond the gate something moved. Something ancient and powerful and aware. She appeared first as a shimmer in the water, then as a silhouette of light against darkness. Finally, Queen Žilvinas took form before Eglė, a being neither fully woman nor fully serpent, but something magnificently between. Her upper body was that of a woman with skin like polished alabaster, veined with faint patterns resembling scales. Her hair flowed around her in tendrils of midnight blue, moving independently as if each strand had its own consciousness. Where human legs should have been, a powerful serpent's tail coiled beneath her, covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with each movement. Her eyes were wholly human, ancient and deep as the sea itself, filled with knowledge that made Eglė tremble. 317 years since a human has entered my realm willingly, Žilvinas spoke, her voice resonating through water and bone alike, and never one so young, carrying so much responsibility on such narrow shoulders. Eglė bowed her head, suddenly aware of her simple linen dress, her calloused hands, her mortal smallness before this ageless being. "I come seeking water, your majesty," Eglė said. "My village dies of thirst. The wells are dry, the crops wither. My little sister," her voice caught, "she may not last another day." Queen Žilvinas circled Eglė slowly, her tail creating gentle currents that tugged at Eglė's clothes and hair. "And why," the queen asked, "should I care for the suffering of those who have forgotten me? Your people once honored the waters with songs and offerings at each new moon. They respected the rhythms of tide and season. Now they take without giving, forget without remembering." Her voice held no malice. This wasn't cruelty, Eglė realized, but simple truth. The queen was neither kind nor cruel. She was like the sea itself, following laws older than human understanding. "The drought is not punishment," Žilvinas continued, trailing a finger through the water, creating swirls of light. "It is consequence. Balance disturbed seeks to right itself." "Then teach us to restore balance," Eglė pleaded. "Whatever the cost, I will pay it." The queen's eyes narrowed with interest. "Would you? Humans make promises easily but honor them rarely." She gestured, and suddenly between them appeared an image in the water. Lipa's small form on her bed, breath coming in shallow gasps, their brother desperately trying to cool her fever. Eglė reached toward the image, her fingers passing through it like smoke. "I can end the drought," Queen Žilvinas said. "I will send rain to fill your wells and nourish your fields, but water wisdom cannot be given freely. It must be earned, learned, embodied." She extended her hand, pale and perfect. "I offer a bargain, daughter of fishermen. I will save your village, but you must spend one season of each year in my kingdom, learning the old ways, becoming a bridge between your world and mine." "1 season," Eglė whispered, understanding dawning. 3 months away from my family each year. "From winter solstice to spring equinox," the queen confirmed. "When the waters need most to be remembered, you will dwell here, learning what your people have forgotten." The underwater palace seemed to hold its breath as Eglė's mind raced. 1 season each year seemed both impossibly long and surprisingly merciful. She thought of her family. Who would care for Lipa? Who would help mother with the endless chores? Who would mend the fishing nets with father? Yet if she refused, there might soon be no family left to care for. "My siblings need me," Eglė said softly. "My parents rely on my help. And does your entire village not need water more urgently?" Queen Žilvinas countered. "Sometimes the greatest service to those we love is not our daily presence, but our courage to do what others cannot." The queen moved to a crystal basin that Eglė hadn't noticed before. Within it swirled miniature clouds, tiny lightning flashing within their depths. "Your people have forgotten that all things connect," Žilvinas continued. "The rain that falls, the rivers that flow, the wells that fill, the bodies that drink, all part of one great cycle. When humans forget they belong to this cycle, they begin to believe water exists to serve them rather than understanding they exist within water's greater purpose. She looked at Eglė with unexpected gentleness. Wisdom requires sacrifice, young one. Always. Not as punishment, but as investment. What we give up creates space for what we receive. Eglė thought of her grandmother's stories. How different they seemed now, standing in this impossible realm. Not fairy tales, but encoded knowledge, passed down by those who remembered. If I agree, Eglė said carefully, will I be able to return to my family between seasons? Will they know where I've gone? You will spend 9 months of each year in your world, the Queen confirmed. Free to live as you choose, carrying water wisdom back to your people. They will know you made a bargain for their salvation, though few will understand its true nature. She gestured again to the image of Lipa, whose breathing had grown even more laboured. But decide quickly. Some prices grow too high to pay if we hesitate too long. Eglė closed her eyes, feeling the weight of choice press upon her. To save many by sacrificing part of herself. To become something other than what she had imagined for her life. This bargain, she said slowly, is it forever? 7 years, the Queen replied. 7 winters beneath the waves, then you may choose return fully to your world or continue as bridge between realms with new terms to be agreed upon. 7 years. Eglė would be 26 when the bargain ended, the prime of her youth given to this underwater realm and its ancient queen. Yet what was youth compared to life itself? What were her small dreams weighed against her village's survival? I accept your terms, Queen Žilvinas, Eglė said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her heart. I will spend each winter in your kingdom, learning the ways of water, if you will end the drought and save my people. Something like approval flickered across the Queen's ageless face. She extended her hand once more, palm up, waiting. Understanding instinctively what was required, Eglė placed her hand in the Queen's. Their touch created a ripple that expanded outward, rings of light pulsing through the water around them. It is sealed, Queen Žilvinas declared. The bargain is made. She moved to the crystal basin, dipping her fingers into the miniature storm clouds. They clung to her hand like living mist, swirling eagerly around her wrist. Go now, the Queen commanded. Return to your world and witness the fulfillment of my promise. When winter solstice comes, walk into the sea at midnight. The waters will bring you to me. She raised her arm, the storm clouds spinning faster, growing larger, until they enveloped her entirely. Through the swirling mist, her eyes locked with Eglė's one final time. Remember, daughter of fishermen, you are no longer merely human. You are now part of water's wisdom. Carry that knowledge with honour. With a gesture like casting a net, Žilvinas flung the storm upward. The palace, the crystal gates, the bioluminescent garden, all began to fade around Eglė. The water itself seemed to lift her, carrying her back through the tunnel, moving faster than any human swimmer could. As consciousness began to slip away, Eglė heard the Queen's voice one last time, distant yet clear. The rain returns to Pajuris. And you, Eglė, will return to me. Eglė awoke on the shore, waves gently lapping at her feet. Her clothes were dry as though she had never entered the water at all. Only the empty woven pouch around her neck confirmed the night's events. Above her, the sky had transformed. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, heavy with promise. As she watched, breathless, the first drops began to fall, tentative at first, then stronger until rain poured down in glorious abundance. She laughed, lifting her face to the downpour, letting it wash away salt and fear alike. The parched earth drank eagerly, already softening beneath her feet as she ran toward the village. Pajuris had awakened to the miracle. Villagers stood in doorways and streets, arms outstretched, mouths open to catch the precious drops. Children danced in rapidly forming puddles. The elderly wept with relief. At home, Eglė found transformation. Lipa sat up in bed, colour returned to her cheeks, drinking eagerly from a cup her brother had filled from the rain barrel. Eglė! Lipa cried, eyes bright again. Where were you? The rain came back. As Wolas looked at his sister with new awareness, noting the strange light in her eyes, the subtle change in how she carried herself. What did you do? He asked quietly. What was necessary, Eglė replied, embracing her siblings. What was right? In the days that followed, the wells refilled. The fields, resilient despite their ordeal, began to show green again. Fish returned to their waters in abundance. The village celebrated its salvation with feasting and music, attributing their deliverance to divine mercy or simple change in weather patterns. Only Eglė knew the truth. Only she felt the subtle pull beneath her breastbone when she looked toward the sea, the silent reminder of her promise. As summer faded to autumn, she began preparing her family, teaching her brother to mend nets with her skill, showing her sister the herb combinations for winter remedies, preserving knowledge as she preserved food for the cold months ahead. When they asked why, she spoke of responsibility, of growing up, of ensuring they could manage should anything happen to her. Not the full truth, but enough. On the eve of winter solstice, with frost rhyming the windows and the sea dark beneath a sliver moon, Eglė stood at the cliff edge watching the waves below. Behind her, lantern light from the village created a warm glow against the night, her world, her home, saved by her sacrifice. Before her stretched the vast mystery of her promise. 3 months in an underwater realm, learning secrets forgotten by her kind, her siblings watched from a distance as she descended the path to the shore, understanding something momentous yet unable to grasp its full meaning. "Will you return?" Liepa had asked earlier, somehow sensing her sister's impending departure. "Always," Eglė had promised, kissing her forehead. "Different, perhaps, but always yours." Now, as her feet touched the water's edge, Eglė felt fear and wonder in equal measure. The bargains wait, the journey ahead, the unknown teachings awaiting her beneath the waves. Yet as she took her first steps into the winter sea, water swirling around her ankles, then knees, she realized a profound truth. She was not merely paying a price. She was becoming a bridge between worlds that should never have grown separate. Behind her, the village slept safely, wells full, children healthy. Before her, the ancient wisdom of water waited, and Eglė, no longer just a fisherman's daughter but something more, walked forward into the embrace of both obligation and destiny, the tide rising to welcome her home.